The American dream is built on freedom, and that freedom comes at a cost. American Heroes Stories, presented by Life, Liberty, Happiness, is a new series honoring the men and women who've sacrificed to protect that dream. We're proud to play a small part in preserving their stories for future generations. Life, Liberty, Happiness, a Media Squatch podcast presents American Heroes Stories.
All right, folks, welcome to the program, U.S. Army and Vietnam veteran David Harker. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Brian. Good to be here.
All right, let's kick it off with where it all started. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Lynchburg, Virginia, December the 8th, 1945. My parents just moved from Newport News at the end of the war, had older brother and sister, and I was the third of the seven. So the last five of us were born here in Lynchburg.
Oh, wow. And you went to Brookville?
I did,
Brookville.
yes. Yeah, great community, yeah. Schools, life, and church. Mm-hmm. Back then, that was the social life and the life of the community, real close-knit community, Brookfield, Timberlake area, yeah.
So what was high school like? Were you an athlete?
I was. Played football, I played baseball, and I ran track, yes.
Now, Brookville has a history in football now. They've got a pretty good track record of winning program. Was it good back in those days?
We won the district championship my junior and senior years, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I was a starting halfback and a linebacker at 135 pounds. Soaking wet, probably. I had the fire in me. But, yeah, really good program. John Bucker Hill was the coach, and Click McKenna did the backfield. We had two coaches. And
wow.
Yeah. And, of course, the district was all you won. There were no state playoffs or any regional playoffs or anything. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, Appomattox and Alta Vista were the powers to deal with, yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Kind of still are.
Yeah.
In their groups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least Appomattox for sure, more recently.
So what got you into what started your military service? What was your motivations?
My unmotivation, I had academic problems at Virginia Tech, and I had to sit out. So young people listening, do not neglect your studies or get deterred. So I had to sit out a quarter. They took me back at Meade Corporation, where I worked in the labor pool. I worked during the summer in the labor pool and made enough money to pay my tuition to school. They took me back early, flunked out of the winter quarter. So I was planning on re-enrolling in the fall quarter, and I come home one day. First, I had to tell the draft board that I was no longer a full-time student, so my 2S student deferment status changed to 1A immediately. I came home 4 or 5 weeks later, and my mother handed me the greetings letter. So off I went to the United States Army.
So you were at Virginia Tech. So what year would that have been?
It was 1967. I was in my third year.
Wow.
In the business.
Holy cow. And man, one bad semester, and next thing you know, you got a slip.
Let me tell you a little story about that, too, because my father-in-law was an old Navy veteran. My wife and I dated in high school. Didn't get married till I came back home because we'd broken up somewhere along the way. But I was still, good friends with Clarence, great man. And so I went by and said, Clarence, I got my draft notice. He said, well, David, let me tell you something. Before you go get inducted, into the military, you can go join any branch of service you would want to. I said, well, I didn't know that. He said, yep. And my advice would be go join the United States Army because you'll have 3 square meals a day. You'll have a warm bunk to sleep in every night, and nobody will be shooting at you. Mm. So I used to tell that story in the POW camp, and the guys would laugh. And they said, why didn't you follow his advice? I said, well, when I found out that I'd have to extend, for another year, I only wanted to do 2 years and go home. So I ended up with an involuntary extension along the way.
Wow.
I did more than my 2-year draft years.
All right. So where You're drafted. Where's basic training at?
Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Yep. Yeah.
And
A82, best damn company on the hill, Sergeant. Let's go, Sergeant.
so were you terrified? Were you fearless? What are your emotions at that stage?
No, I was just waking up real quick. I said, oh, okay, here I am. And when I'm out at training, I'm thinking, I had a better deal at Virginia Tech than this. You know, getting up at 5 in the morning, going out and double time marching, about an hour and coming back and cleaning the barracks up. Yeah. Yep. I was just a little old PFC.
So were you thinking, were you knowing that at that point that Vietnam is a reality? And has that set in, or is it even thought process at that point?
Well, at Virginia Tech, my good friend Steve Neese was in Shank's dorm with me and down the hall, and we'd watch Walter Cronkite every evening. And we were aware the war was going on. I knew that, the numbers were increasing, our involvement, our military involvement. And where it really hit me is when I got to Fort Polk, Louisiana, and like a Spec 4 sat us down and said, okay, guys, you're going to go to Vietnam after you finish advanced infantry training. It's like, whoa. Yep. I knew it was coming, but.
So you said a Spec 4?
Yeah, specialist 4th class.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd think a major or general would be telling you that, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Now, did you choose infantry, or they just told you, or was that something you wanted to be?
That was the process. When my G3 testing was really good when I came in the Army. So first lieutenant brought me into the office, and he said, we could send you to OCS and you could pick any branch you want, I said, well, I'm interested in flying, maybe helicopters. And again, the idea of, he told me, well, you'd have to extend, at least give us 3 years to, go to helicopter school and then, go off to Vietnam. But I said, well, I'll just do my 2. So I deferred for infantry.
Holy cow. So, all right. So you're down in Louisiana.
Oh, yeah.
It's hot.
Tigerland.
Yes. It's miserably hot down there. How long are you there for?
9 weeks.
9 weeks.
Yep.
So what's after 9 weeks?
Home for 30 days and then shipping to Vietnam. When I left Polk, I had orders. I had orders originally for the 9th Infantry Division.
Do you remember, how you got back home? I mean, where did you, we had a guest on earlier, said he hitchhiked, it wasn't exactly, did you have transportation to be able to get back home for 30 days?
Oh, yeah. The military gives you flight pay. Flew back from New Orleans back to Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
And a friend of mine, Jerry Goff, that went to school with me, he and I were on the buddy system. We ended up drafted together.
Oh, wow.
We ended up in basic and advanced infantry training. We ended up in the same infantry company in Vietnam. But his parents picked us up and drove us back from Richmond.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
All right. So let's see. So your next plane ride, I guess, is overseas at that point?
It is about 19 hours. Yeah.
What type of plane are you in?
We're in a, wow. Tell me. It was commercial. We flew commercial airlines.
I got you.
We flew commercial airliners. Had stewards say, "Here we are, in our dress uniforms. We've got orders, and we've got Air Force, Army, and all on the same flight." We landed at Benoit, and we then go out to our respective military units. I went to 90th replacement there at Benoit. But anyway, so we flew. I'm trying to think of the air base there. Well, first I flew from D.C., from Reagan Airport or Kennedy Airport out to San Francisco. Again, the military paid for that. But then we got on the commercial airliners there. I was in a holding area there for about 6 days or so, and then they would load us up by groups. And so flew to Hawaii. That's a route we took. That was a northern route they took, but I flew the middle route, and then from there to Guam. So we're flying into nighttime the whole time.
Okay.
And we've got movies up on the screen and all. And yeah, it's interesting when we flew into Hawaii, they let us get off the plane while they refueled, going to the airport. Well, I'm sitting beside a man that's got orders for Air Force, and he's all upset. He said, I said, well, I'm infantry, I ought to be a little more worried than you. Just calm down. You could probably be at a secure base. You're not going to be out hunting down the enemy. And so get back on the plane, and he does not get back on the plane.
You're kidding.
He jumped ship.
He went AWOL?
He went AWOL.
Holy cow.
And the stewardess came through a little while later and said, was so-and-so? I said, yeah, she got his papers. And so I don't know whether they arrested him later or not. But
no kidding.
You can't hide out too much, I think, in Hawaii there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll find you.
Yeah.
God, it never crossed my mind that that's a reality, but sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you're 18 years old at this point, right?
Well, Brian, you think about it. Here you are operating search and destroy missions in the middle of these villages, rice paddies up in them. And you just don't think about dying. You don't think about getting ambushed. You just, it's not in your mind, When you do get hit, that will come later, Then that's when, the fear sets in and, the chaos of combat.
Did you think you were trained as an infantryman, ready for it? I mean, were you confident going?
I was.
That you knew that you
we had good training, yes, yeah. Yeah, and fire and movement was one of the strategies I used. A group of men moving up under base of fire from other,
It's a different type of warfare. I mean, Vietnam changed things a little bit in the type of warfare, and so I guess the war had been going on a couple years. So you had some people that knew, I guess, the best way to fight.
Trent, I've read We Were Soldiers Once and Young, and that group of the first CAF, those guys had their hierarchy, their officers and NCOs had seen combat in Korea.
Yeah.
And you talk about they went over as a unit. And as time went on, some of those men rotated out. So they lost that. But at the Idrang, they held the day. And a lot of it is due to those guys. We were wet behind the ears in my unit. We didn't have seasoned leaders. But anyway,
everything was still new. Sort of new for you.
Right. Yeah. And guerrilla warfare, it doesn't translate into conventional war like we had been in Europe, or even, Japanese had lines and you moved them and you assaulted them. We probably lost more people than we did in the European theater, but still though, yeah.
All right. So, your first, couple of nights there, what's that like? I'm assuming you've landed. Now you're in an area. When do you start realizing, all right, this is what we're going to be doing here?
Yeah. Well, it's hurry up and wait in the military. I'm there at this replacement barracks type. The latrines were interesting. Welcome to pulling out drums, out and burning them. Yeah. So there was just kind of boredom. Did have Thanksgiving. They had a really good Thanksgiving meal. I still have the program from that.
Wow.
No kidding.
Yeah, we did. So when I get orders and fly out to Chulai, my orders changed from the 9th Infantry Division to the 196th Light Infantry Division. And so we flew up to Chulai, up north, near Da Nang, about 50 miles south of Da Nang, up in that area, in the Quai Son area. And so that's where I got with my unit. But I was still in brigade headquarters company area. And so it was a secure area down by the beach. Roger Staubach was down on the beach with a Navy group. And they said he'd throw the football. I never saw Roger, but he was down there with, with the Navy. They had an air base there, and I don't know what his duties was, but he'd be throwing the football. And then they trained us. We had a little in-country training. And then when I flew out to my company, that's when here we are. Welcome to Fire Base Central and up on a hillside. 500, 600 meters up in the air. Artillery guns in the middle of this fire base that they have. Infantry has perimeter around to keep the enemy from getting to our guns, and so the battalion that I was in was on this fire base, and one company pulled security while the other three companies were out doing search and destroy, and then they would rotate around. So I'd only been there about 3 or 4 days, and we got relieved, and we walked off the fire base into the no man's land, into the enemy territory, off a fire base. And my first night, we were just moving very slowly at dusk under cover of darkness, got down the mountainside, and we just set up just right in the middle of a rice paddy. And I woke up with a leech on my lip, had swollen up from getting blood, flipped it off, and off we went next day. We worked the whole month of December out in the area, Quezon, Queson, not Quezon, but and Marines were in that area too. We were probably about 15 miles southwest of Da Nang, in an area that the 101st Airborne had been in that area, because I saw the Screaming Eagle magazines in the huts we'd go in, and so we'd go from village to village. I don't know what our orders was. I was just a PFC, but we had a certain area to move to and a certain territory to cover. And that whole month of December, every 4 days we get resupplied with sea rations. And if we didn't get socked in, and one time we got socked in, so we didn't get food for 7 days. So we started getting begging rice from the peasant people there and cooking it up. But so that's how we operate. No showers, no nothing, just moving every day, sleeping, setting up positions at night, and
Is the group of you just a fire team of 4, or is it a squad?
No,
of
this
12?
was a whole company. And my company was undersized. 200 men usually makes up a line company. I did a count one time, about 90 people in my company.
Okay.
So each platoon was really short of men.
Yeah. And each platoon would go out. I mean, or is it the?
No, we moved just a whole body of people.
Company.
Yeah.
Was Golf, your buddy Golf, was he still with you at this point?
He was in a different squad. Yeah, Jerry was with us.
Wow.
He was a machine gunner. He had the big old machine gun. I had a little light M16, and he had an ammo barrel with him. The machine gunners did.
And what are you looking for actually when you're doing? Is it just the enemy that has guns?
We're just looking, make contact, see if we can, surprise them. But you don't surprise them. They're tracking you, and they know where you are, and I'll find out later. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I mean, you are in their country, and they know it like
absolutely.
We know our own ridges. Yeah.
So when do you see your first gunfire battle?
January the 8th, 1968, the day I was captured.
No kidding.
We did not have contact with the enemy that whole month. We were out. And the end of January, they did a helilift. They took us by helicopter out of this hinterlands west of Tam Key, the provincial capital, over to the beach east of where we were, about 20-minute flight, 30-minute flight. And we did a combat assault there and did round up some Viet Cong people, but didn't have any engagement with them. And then they put us on a deuce and half and took us back to brigade headquarters the 31st of December. And we were supposed to have what they call in-country R&R. We came into brigade headquarters. We dropped our gear, our weapons, there was perimeter around us, so we were safe. And we got hot showers. We had a day area. And about the third day we were there, we were supposed to be there 6 days or so. We got called back out. And we had Chinooks that took us back out. They carry about 30 combat-loaded guys as opposed to Hueys, and dropped us in the Hepduck area. There's a different area of operation for another brigade of another battalion of ours. And the company had been wiped out a few days before. We walked back up on fire base, and when we got up there that night, Company C of 2nd of the 1st got hit. And it was like the 4th of July. You could see the rounds, green rounds, the enemy rounds, and the helicopter was trying to run support, and we ended up joining them as POWs. Frank Anton's crew, they got shot down that night, and So anyway, the guns were off all night. They were shooting flares out, and so the next day we walked off fire base, picked up helicopters, went into that area where they had already removed the bodies, and there were still stacks of North Vietnamese troops around that hadn't been removed, and so that's kind of the first time. In the helicopter, Anton's helicopter had the tail boom up in the air. He had to auto rotate. He had a rice paddy dyke, but anyway, they had already booby trapped it, and we were looking. And the crew was missing. They were missing in action. The co-pilot had made it back to friendlies.
Okay.
He got back to an Arvin camp, and but the other three on the helicopter, Anton the pilot and two door gunners and crew chief Robert Lewis and Jim Feaster were missing in action. I ended up being prisoners with them. Young was 3 years. Yeah.
So tell us about how that goes down. I guess how do you become a prisoner at that point?
We set up camp that night. We went into the area where they had been hit, and you could tell. I saw one of them had a perimeter set up, and I saw a bush hat with gray matter in it. Okay, that hadn't been removed from the area, so I envisioned, when the man had his, but instead of his steel pot, put his bush hat on, not relaxing, but he knew somebody, and they hit him, I think, from within. I think they had spider holes inside, and they hit him from outside, and killed a lot of them, just pretty much wiped the company out. Anton said that when they rolled in on the gunship, he wanted flares on both sides, but he only got one flare, so he didn't know where to put his gunfire. So by the time he came back around, he got hit. Hydraulics knocked out, so he had to auto-rotate and hit the ground and get off the ship. But so we set up that night. We thought we were going to get hit, but we didn't. And we operated a couple of days just sweeping down through the valley with a couple of the companies trying to locate the enemy. And the third day, we swept down, started early in the morning. About noontime, we broke for lunch. And the other company we set up a perimeter, and a helicopter brought us some resupplies and took some gunfire. So that's when a squad of men left the company. CO got on the horn and said, hey, I need a couple of riflemen for each platoon. And so about 20 of us. I did not have a good appetite. Other guys were eating. I didn't volunteer usually, but I picked up my weapon and I went off with the group. We did a fire and movement into the village where we'd been earlier in the day, and we got into the village, just women and kids in there screaming, and we didn't hit anybody, but they were down. So civilians were caught right in the middle. That always bothered me a lot. And so they forgot to tell us. We decided to go in the village Catacorn and back across the Lao River and go into that village online. And maybe they were there. They forgot to tell us that's where they were. So by that time, Captain Roland Belcher, my commanding officer, had joined us with his RTO, with the Forward Observer and his RTO. And we set up a little staging area right on the banks of the Lao River. And Belcher said, okay, we're going to make a file of men, get online, and we're going to go into the village. So I'm the last man in a file of men. And so I'm in the middle of the river, men in front of me, some of them already kind of set, ready to go into the village, waiting for all of us. And I got my M16 up at Port Arms because the river's pretty swift. It's up, almost to my waist, and pretty, and I hear mortars going down the tube. And I said, we don't have a fire mission. And I knew then. And what they did, they walked the mortars in on the men that were already out in the open and pushed them right into the ambush and just withering fire and killed. The last I saw Captain Belcher, he was running point. Now, your captain's supposed to be back there. We left a rear support of 5 men, all of them enlisted guys. I don't even know whether any of them were above the rank of E4, but anyway. Killed him, his RTO. They killed the RTO, so we didn't have any radio contact. And I come across the river, and I join is a creek that comes into the river, and 5 men have gotten shelter behind that creek bank, including my first sergeant, Richard Frank Williams, who had been in combat in Vietnam, and he became our leader. He was in charge now, and it's good to have good leadership. Top was 41 years old, and so he got us together, and we fought them off. They were on top of us, and they would come down, and they couldn't see us crossing this path to assault guys on the other side of the river that we left as a rear support, and we were shooting them and dropping them. We had a machine gun across from us to our backs, but we were facing them because we had our backs to the creek bank. And so we told them, to start firing, and the gun was not operating. And next thing I look, and they were gone. They weren't there.
Oh.
So we were on our own. We started throwing grenades, and like I said, it's hectic, it's chaos, it's just a deafening noise, all the gunfire and all, and so they don't hit any of us, and we're throwing grenades, and I think, and this is what I believe, just from thinking about it, and the way they operate, they usually would overrun you and take prisoners, overrun you, kill anybody, that once they control the battlefield, either hide on back in the bush if you held the day. Well, they were in charge, and so I think they had orders to take prisoners. I believe that, okay? And so they pulled back. Well, the little lull, Top said, okay, we're going to low crawl because we got this creek bank, and we're going to shorten the distance across the open rice paddy back to our CP. Because in the open rice paddy with fire, you get shot, But that's about all we can do is get back and try to fight another day. So we start low crawling, and we get to the place where the creek bank levels off, and we can see them. They're walking in the tree line. Oh. So we start moving, hoping, and they spotted us by the time. And we got a creek bank up behind us now. We got to go over that. And Michael Oliver and I are the last 2 men down in the creek bed. And once they spot us, they start firing. Top goes over and he yells back. He said, the next man that comes up, you got to get down quick. He said, this fire is heavy. Ollie, I'm looking at him. He's got this ashen look on his face. Wiry country boy from Tennessee. He'd been in country 8 months, so I'm the low guy. He goes up and over the right, and he starts screaming. He gets just torn up. He didn't get down. And then I hear Top trying to keep him from going into shock, and he says, Ollie, just take it easy. He said, take it easy. He said, I'm hit too. He had already taken a round through his hand. Top had, and hadn't said a word, and that was the first I knew, and then Ollie just dies, and he said, Harker, just hold your position. He yells at the guys, we're using voice command, and we're going to get help. CP's going to come up, and help us out, and well, they start coming at us, and so we're shooting them, and again, they took. It wasn't a normal way of operating, so they had to have had orders because they could have swept it and just done us in. And, they outnumbered us about 20-1.
Wow! And
so for about 2 hours, that's how they try to outmaneuver and get around to us. In fact, one time during the day, somebody yells, "Some friendly's coming up behind." So out of the 6 of us, 5, Ollie's been killed, so there are only 5 of us. I found out later Sergeant Booker got killed of the group that had gone up and over the rice paddy. And anyway, so one of the men, right after the initial ambush, Vince Coughlin from Philadelphia, I'd taken training with Vince. His M16 had jammed up, so we only had 5 weapons. We had 2 M79 grenade launchers and 3 M16s, which isn't a whole lot. But anyway, again, they try. Well, somebody yells, no, it's the enemy. Anyway, they're still coming to us, and time's passing, and I hear at some point a voice, rapid Vietnamese voice, rapid fire voice, the tonal sound, that language, and Top stands up, and I'm right below him, and I look up. I turn in a 90-degree. I'm still down in a prone position, as low as I can get, and the Vietnamese that picks him up has a pith helmet on. He's got his AK-47. And Top told me he didn't have his steel pot on because during the day, a round hit his steel pot and ripped it off like a can opener.
Holy cow.
It's a 2-piece set with a web gear and plastic piece with the steel pot down on it. So he stands up and he knows, so he diverts a guy from me. And so I lay back down, and I don't have Top anymore. So
are you by yourself now?
Yeah, I'm the most forward man. The other guys
he's gone. So now you're just just laying there.
But let me back up, because I tell this. I have a testimony. Grew up in a good Christian family. Made a profession of faith when I was 9 years old at Westland Baptist Church. So when we get to that point where we're pinned down again, I'm lying there and they're coming at us, and I said, "It's no way this 22-year-old. I'm not going to live for the rest of the day. It's no way I'm going to make it through this."
Wow.
I know that in my mind, and God gave me to live as Christ, to die as gain. Came through my mind. And so I said, I believe, in the resurrection. And I just hope the bullet hits me and I'm gone quick. Yeah. So that calmed me down, just that verse that kept going, to live as Christ, to die as gain, that kept going through my head. That calmed me down, and I said, yeah. And I'll fast forward and back up a little. My father joined the Gideons because a friend asked him to, with a thought. Here's what he told me, which was a long stretch, that if one of my captors would get one of those little Bibles and read it and have salvation, I would get better treatment. Well, guess what? My dad didn't know, but we've been there about 11 months, and the interpreter, Mr. Home, brought in a Gideon Testament that had been on one of the men that was captured, James Alexander Daly from Brooklyn, New York. The Gideons gave him there at the induction center in Brooklyn, and he had it on him when he was captured. And they kept that person, and they brought it in, and Mr. Holmes said, this little book, Camp had talked, personnel at Harker had talked about, well, this little book has something to do with this holiday that's coming up. It's 1st of December. And said, okay, you can choose some words out of this, and we'll approve them or not, whether you can say them, And so the first thing when I grabbed that book, I'm looking to live as Christ, to die as gain. Philippians 1:21. Okay. Now, I learned memory verses in church, but anyway. So they forgot to take the little Gideon Testament back, so we secreted it away in the thatched roof. Yeah, and I would, read it. Yeah, great source of comfort and help. My faith, was my strength and helped me. Yeah, God becomes real in a situation like that. Yeah, yeah. Wow. But anyway, so but back up. Top step as I'm laying back down, or getting off my elbows and down. I'm thinking the creek takes me back into the Lao River. Dark's coming here soon. And as I look, there's an infantryman right on top of me, a Vietnamese. He's got his AK. And so I plant my M16 in the ground and I stand up. When I stand up, from me to where she's sitting, 2 North Vietnamese troops were bent over. One of their dead, who had almost made it to us, had a big gut wound, and they were taking his ammo and his gun. They were policing the area, and they hadn't seen me till I stood up. They were almost at me, and they came over and they stripped me down, and they put a man in charge of me that had a sidearm, and so I figured he was an officer. They had rifles. They went around policing up the dead Americans, getting all the ammo and weapons off of them. And this guy's in charge of me, and they own the battlefield. He's walking in front of me back to this village where they ambushed, where they were coming from and attacking us. And so I'm frantic. I've been taught to escape as soon after capture as possible, which, makes a lot of sense. Don't get, I've got the guy. I've got my hand over his mouth. I got his arms pinned to his side. And I got to kill him, but I can't make any noise. He's got a bayonet in the scabbard, and I try to get the bayonet out of the scabbard, and I can't. It won't come out. In the struggle, he starts screaming bloody murder. And I mean, it's like you just on rapid fire. Your brain, there's a trail that we've been on, and it's funny. I'm thinking I'm pretty fast, and when I would steal second base, I was a leadoff guy. I'm pretty quick,
Yeah.
Ran the 220 and the 440. I said, but I got I'm thinking about my combat boots slowing me down, but anyway,
that's amazing.
In the struggle, he gets the bayonet out. He stabs me in the back, just a superficial wound. I had some complications from it later. I get his 45 American issued Colt off of him, and I put it up to his head, and he wheels away from me, and it's not locked and loaded.
Oh, wow.
So I look up, and it looked like a whole North Vietnamese army standing around with their weapons. So, and I got punished for that. We walked at night, and they duck winged me, and they tied my arms. My arms swelled up to about 3 times it, and I had no feeling in them. And the more I tried to get loose, the tighter they got. I've probably never been in excruciating pain like that. But anyway, so they took us back and to the village, and about that time, American artillery started coming in right in the village.
Oh yeah, you're with
and I'm thinking they
now.
put me down in a hole, and I thought, I'm gonna die from my own artillery. I'm gonna get killed by it. But it subsided, and then they started walking me down this trail. They took my combat boots off of me, so I wouldn't try to get away again. And as I'm walking, I'm in this mindset that they don't take prisoners. That's how we were trained.
Yeah.
They're gonna kill me. They're gonna kill me, and I'm smelling dead bodies. And I think they got a common grave, but anyway, they take me to an old French house that's out. I guess French plantation out there, stucco roof and all, most of it just poor peasant villages, straw roof, and but this was a plantation home, and they had the headquarters set up. They were coming and going. They had commo wire strung out, and there's Top, and there's Francis Eugene Cannon, and there's Jim Strickland. Strickland had been captured. He was with the group that most were killed. He said that the men that you're supposed to stand up and attack the most intense fire. That's the training. Well, your natural instincts to hit the deck, and he said people were hitting the deck rather than standing up and assaulting them. And he said the bullets were going through the rice paddy dikes, killing guys. But he said a round hit near him and knocked him out. When he woke up, they were already dragging him off a battlefield with commo wire around him. But he was Strickland. Cannon had been with my group, and he had gotten to a point where he had a bird's eye view, and he was telling Top, you got somebody coming to your right front about 20 meters away, and Top, without exposing himself with his wounded hand, would set that M79. And during the day, Top's M79 exploded on him, and Ollie, that died there beside him, had a basic load at M79, so he started using Ollies. But anyway, so
Were you with all that firefighting? And you just had the M16? Are you running out of ammo? Or are you trying to conserve it? Or are you did no thought?
Well, they're not coming, in mass. They're just 1 or 2. Occasionally, Top would say, just spray out front with automatic.
Gotcha.
I said on automatic. No, I still had ammunition. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Whew. You're listening to Life, Liberty, Happiness. We're talking with Army veteran David Harker. Yeah. Take a breath for a second, man. That's intense.
David, you've only been, honestly, just December and January, right?
6 weeks.
Did you just tell yourself, well, I just got here. And I
just got there.
And it was like, oh, man, you're just trying to learn how to fight, and you're captured. Holy cow.
Yeah.
What do you, are you guys?
Trent, it's interesting. In that 6 weeks, it's funny how you build up that esprit, that camaraderie, that closeness to other guys that are, and I can name, my commanding officer, Roland Belcher, 27 years old, up on Firebase. I got to talk to him just briefly one time, and just, great guy. He dies there, believing in democracy and freedom. He just, he left the family and all. And my platoon leader, Frank Sieverts, he died out there near Belcher, and he was from out in New Jersey. He was a horse guy, Albemarle County, Those guys that died, They just have a lasting impression. You know, not modeling, just that's I remember them because you have to move on. You can't sit there and cry.
I don't want to sound ignorant either. In your training, are you guys trained on what to do as prisoners, how to be a prisoner, or is this still so new to you that you guys have to learn on the fly?
We had an 8-day course, Trent.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. And it mainly consisted of they gave us some raw chicken and some rice or something, and we were supposed to cook that. We had instructions on, you know, if you captured, you know, in the bleachers. Yeah, but then that night they gave us, that evening, they gave us this food. We were supposed to cook it, and then we're supposed to go trails into the forest there at Fort Polk, and there are people posing at Viet Cong, and they grabbed some of the guys. Vince Coughlin, whose weapon jammed up, he played dead. He survived. He pulled bodies over him. He was one of our 6 that made it back, you know, besides me. Top and Cannon died in captivity. But he said, David, I'll tell you the story. When I get back to Fort, the hospital there in Pennsylvania, where, you know, doing my recuperation and going through debriefing and all, Valley Forge Army Hospital. I come back to the ward one day after undergoing examinations and tests and all, and there's Vince Coughlin. I did not know what happened to Vince for 5 years and 2 months, and there it's like a ghost. He said, David, he said, I pulled the bodies over me, and he said, when they pulled the bodies off, all they wanted was my Seiko watch. He said, they almost broke my wrist. They didn't check my pulse, anything. So he lay there dead, and they moved on out, and he got picked up a day or so later when the Army came in and secured the area. Yeah, and he fought some more. Yeah, he was a firefighter with the Philadelphia Police Department. I mean, with the fire department. He died back some years ago.
Wow.
But anyway, so, yeah.
So now you're captured, and where do they put you? Or now that you're in there,
we walked about 10 days back to the plantation. Yeah. They're coming and going. They take us off one at a time as interrogate us. And again, they're going to kill me. I'm not going to live. And they start to interrogate me. And the guy speaks very poor English. What is your unit? Anyway, and I'm saying, you know, David Harker, US 52939, name, rank, service number, and date of birth. Okay, I give him that. And he ain't buying that. And he makes it pretty clear that they got the power of life and death. Well, you're supposed to stand your ground. Well, when you have a weapon, maybe, but, you know, here you are, you're on your own. It's just like, okay.
I know it's rough.
And, yeah, it was rough. And at one point, I got wise. I said, a unit like a unit on a stove? Well, they didn't know what a stove was. Or, you know, that's the only thing I could come up with. But he did. I know he said to him, this wise guy, I'm going to take him out and shoot him if he doesn't get right. And they all started laughing at whatever he said to him, you know, because the riflemen were standing around. There were people that were doing the work and going, but some of them were there watching. Took me back. Anyway, we walked that night under artillery barrage, B-52 bombing close by, and just kept moving. And so about that 6th day, we came to a village. Now we're getting farther away from friendlies. Okay?
Yeah.
We're going farther west and their territory, where, you know, up in the mountains, the Trung Sun mountain range. And they do an interrogation again in this village. And again, you know, I don't want this. I've had enough. You know, I did survive combat, but I don't want, you know, I don't have any military secrets, but I don't want to be pushed to the limit. And so they take me down, again, take us one by one, took Top first. And he comes back, he said, don't tell him anything. I said, I'm not, you know, I don't know anything. But
yeah.
So I sit down on this bamboo bench. There's a little bamboo table there. And here's a kid, looks like he's 16. He's got a fixed bayonet. He's standing beside me. He's my guard. And in walks Mr. Bay, interpreter, who I had met previously, and I saw him later. He works at Region. He comes in, and he's with some high-ranking officer. The guy's got a cut across his face, and I can only imagine he was in a bayonet fight with French soldiers during the French. And he means business. And I'm thinking, whoa, you know, he's a hardened infantry guy. And he kept going on. I mean, and it went on, and he finally hit a nerve. He threw the interpreter. He said, "Well, what about your family back home?" I had not thought about my family back home until then. I almost cried, you know. It's like, oh no, you know. And anyway, so I thought and he made that clear. He said, we can do you in. You need to tell us. What you know. What I know. I'm a PFC. I don't know anything.
Been there 6 weeks.
It's a but it's just a breaking you down. You know. So I'm thinking, once they take me out, put the blindfold on, and I hear the clicking of them locking and loading, I'm gonna just tell them whatever they need to know, whatever that might be. But they took me back, and Top said during interrogation, we'll know what unit he's with. He said, I'm with the First Cavalry Division. He still had a First Cav patch on. And they said, no, you're not with the First Cav. You're with the 196. He said, okay.
Yeah.
Play the game. So, yeah.
So you guys are able to communicate with one another? They didn't have you isolated, or?
Okay. On the last day, we come into this village and spend the night in that village, and that's where we see Anton and his 2 crew members. They walk us past them, and they look like they've been on holiday. We're dirty, grungy. We're thinking they've already taken sides with the enemy. I mean, your mind
yes.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah, it doesn't go right. And so the next day, we're on the trail together, and we realize, we were the crew chief. We're not collaborating with them. We walk into a POW camp, and the sun doesn't shine. It's like triple canopy when we finally get there. We go up some rough mountain trails, little footpaths, and they have even made steps, so that people can get around, because they don't have helicopters. They get around on foot. And so we end up in that camp. And the first person I meet is Dr. Hal Kushner, the only physician captured during the war. He was with the 1st Cavalry Division. He was a flight surgeon with them. Hal finished high school at GW Danville, went to UNC, got his master's there in biology, and went to Medical College of Virginia. And he was interning at Tripler, where he was born, Army Hospital, and he saw the wounded coming in, so he volunteered. And when they got there, one of the medics said, "Doc, we hope we ain't got to name this clinic after you like we did the guy before you." But anyway, they were on a night flight, ran into the side of a mountain, and he was the only one to survive. He thought they were east of Highway 1, they were west. But anyway, Viet Cong got him and brought him to the camp. Yeah, the helicopter fired off, rounds burned up, and he got a couple of rounds in him. But anyway, he got taken. He was asked by their personnel to go work in one of their field hospitals, and he's a smart guy, well read, brilliant guy. He thought it was against the Geneva Convention. He found that later. He could have gone, and done that. And but he stayed with us. Couldn't practice medicine. We couldn't call him captain or they go crazy. Of course, they weren't in the compound with us, but in their presence. And just his knowledge was a big help to us. Yeah. We buried 9 men in the POW camps that I was in. Yeah.
How many of you were there while you were there?
Again, I think that from that period, Kushner was picked up in January. I mean, in December 14th. But, as a fluke, they got him. But they had captured a Marine and Army guy, Augusto Ortiz, in like July of that year. Bob Sherman had come into their hands. So from like 67, the middle of 67, and up to the Tet. And I think that's when they decided they needed prisoners. And in the South, they had a lot of pilots were shot down. They were getting them. Of the 670 or whatever repatriated Americans, only about 100, 110 of us were captured in the South. So our numbers were small because, again, that tactics up to that point, they didn't take people, but they took us. So, but anyway, Top, he was a big help, Dr. Kushner was. And But that camp started growing with us. Well, there was 7 of us that came into the camp, and then later 2 Marines, Joe Zataki and Denny Hammond, came into the camp. They were with the CAG, Civilian Action Group, a pacification group, and the PFs with them fled, and they fought North Vietnamese on their own. And both of them died in captivity. They didn't make it through. Fred Burns came to us. He was a Marine, PFC, out of Brentwood, Long Island, a good Catholic. Could have gone to Notre Dame. He was a bright kid. And he wanted to serve his country. And Fred didn't make it through. He died. He was 18 when he was captured, 19 when we buried him in January of 69. Yeah.
These deaths you're talking about, are these torture? Are they malnutrition?
No,
are they
no.
just wounded from...
Our living conditions were horrendous,
Yeah.
We did have a bamboo bed we slept on with a thatched roof. We did all the work except the building. We carried the materials and all, but captors built the huts. We moved camp about 4 different times around different locations. And we got a little bit of rice, okay? We had malaria. All of us had malaria. It would kick you in the butt. And they did. The only medicine they had was quinine. Large doses of quinine would eventually take care of it. We had the nausea, the chills, high fever, delirious. It would last you probably about 15 to 30 days to even take it a quinine. Oh, yeah. It was a killer. But anyway, so the camp grew, I used to know, to probably about 25 men. The original 3 members of that camp were Captain Eisenbrown, captured in June of 1965, Bobby Garwood, the traitor, that we later testified against down at Camp Lejeune, and then Russ Grissett, First Force Recon Marine. And, you talk about some great... Russ was your Marine, scuba qualified, para-Marine, and recon. And his recon group got in a beehive of North Vietnamese, and they didn't get extracted. Some of them got extracted. Some of them got killed, and he got captured. But he joined Eisenbrown and Garwood about 8 or 9 months into that captivity. And by the time we came along, Garwood had crossed over, was living with the enemy, was out of camp when I got there. Eisenbrown had died, and Russ, was there. He was a force to be reckoned with. But anyway, so we buried Russ in November of that year. Yeah. But just, again, a little rice. Moat yards around. We lived around the mountain people. There were villages of them around. And you think the poor people in the hinterlands, the backwoods of Vietnam that are working the rice paddies or backwoods, they live in the Stone Age. You get up in the mountains, the moat yards, even more primitive, loincloths, spears, women are bare breasts, the kids naked, have distended bellies, they can barely survive.
Wow.
They were like the home guard. Anyway, they cultivated fields of manioc. In third world countries, South America, Asia, Africa, the cassava root is a staple of poor peasant people. And so our camp personnel would barter with them, and we would go to these moat yard villages, 5-6 miles of little footpaths, pull the roots up and bring them back in baskets of 60, 70 pounds. Those of us that were able, were healthy enough. And that made up the bulk of that diet. And then they had a rotten fish sauce called nuc mon, and that provided a little protein for us. So we would just,
So you had to do labor. You were doing labor, and then
just for ourselves,
to survive.
Just to survive. Yeah. And we did have a political cadre, Mr. Ho An Ho, who spoke the King's English. In fact, he had some French blood in him, I'm sure, because he was about 6'1" or 2, and he was a party person. He was a political cadre, and he gave us the political course, And at the end, we had to sign political statements, or else, And so anyway, Mr. Ho's there.
Not to touch a tough subject, but you mentioned a traitor, and I just wonder, in that environment you're in, yeah, and you can discuss or not. It's all up to you what you want to talk about. But what makes a person a trader, and why would you not choose to do that, or why would someone choose to do that? Is it just to survive? I just wonder how that works in that environment.
Yeah.
What that
I
thought
wasn't
is.
there when Bobby crossed over, when he decided to go live with them, learn the language. And in fact, I've seen some declassified information, or Kushner got it, and I've seen it, that the Politburo questioned why you would give some status to an American POW who's claiming to be, you know, with you.
Mm.
You know, we've got guys up here that not proven themselves that aren't, you know, had the status, and they gave him some title, Win the Patriot or something. But he was an opportunist. He's a liar. I never knew the man to tell the truth about his capture. He would come into compound from time to time, and he did tell us that he would go down into American military areas, and he would go to the bullhorn and tell the guys to throw down their weapons or whatever, and he would get shot at. So I don't know what his role exactly was, except he lived with them, and whenever he came in a compound, anything we said, would come back.
Yeah.
In fact, Grissett and Eisenbrown, Grissett told his story because Eisenbrown was dead, that Bobby was living with them. He came in a compound. They said, Bobby, we're going to escape tonight. You know, you want to go with us?
Oh.
Well, next thing, here comes the camp commander with all his henchmen and said, you understand they went on escape that night anyway. They pulled the punji stakes up. They went through the path, the punji stakes, and they wandered around for about 2 or 3 days. Grissett said they would hide out during the daytime and walk at night. And when they recaptured them, they finally, you know, they didn't have any food. They recaptured them. They brought them back to camp in about 30 minutes. So they didn't really get, they just,
3 days and still just 30 minutes away. Wow.
That would be us.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the whole ordeal we went through, it's amazing. You know, I say it was God, and God gave a lot of good people to us. You know, we learned to pull together. Okay, surviving without anything, you can become, you know, pretty selfish, right? Yeah, I'm going to make it out. And so here is how I explain it. We would kill Camp's chicken if it came in a compound. Russ would, and his philosophy was kill the small pullet chickens, don't kill the big one. I said, Russ, you're taking the same risk. He figured if the smaller the chicken, the less your punishment. We said, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Anyway, whoever killed a chicken, and Isaiah McMillan, one of our guys was out a rural farm in Florida, and he could grab a chicken and wring its head off and it wouldn't make a sound. We called him the weasel. But it was clean, you know, in the pot. But whoever did it could say, okay, you guys get the chicken feet and the beak, and I want the rest of the chicken. It was kind of, we call it the lion's share. You took a risk. Till later, we became more selfless and altruistic. You know,
beautiful.
And you divide it out. Everybody gets an equal share. And the sick, we didn't know how can we keep people from dying? And Cannon had bad wounds. They never recovered from them. They're fading away. And you're trying to do, but, you know, they're tough. Cannon set up against the bed, that big support, bamboo support, and just moaned during the night because he was always in pain. You know, but, you know, and we just took care of them. You know, later had to clean them, you know, in their last days, and they became incoherent. But it's interesting. Everyone just at the last would speak of family, mother, father. You know, Russ, when he died, he said his sister's name. He gave her address in Dubberly, Louisiana. It's like here he is dying, and, you know, his family.
Wow.
Yeah. Cush and I stayed with him, you know, while he struggled during the night. Anyway.
How long were you captive?
I was 3 years in the jungles. We walked the Ho Chi Minh Trail in 1971, 60-day hike. Got to Hanoi on April 1st, 1971, had left February 1st. and walked the Ho Chi Minh Trail. We passed battalions, brigades of North Vietnamese troops infiltrating down the trail. We got rifle butts once we saw they were Americans. But we went in six. There was 12 of us still living at the time, so it took us in 6-man groups. So we walked the trail. I got to walk a Ho Chi Minh Trail through Laos. Went over the Trung Son Mountain. Yeah.
So it was, and then how long were you at the final?
I was there 2 years.
2 more years, so 5 years altogether.
Yeah. And I was a place called Plantation Gardens. The pilots had been kept there. Then they moved them out and put the guys from the South in there. And when they started December bombing, I don't know whether you've heard Linebacker 2, saturation bombing, when the peace agreement broke down in October of 1972, they decided to start saturation, the arc lighting of Hanoi. And so we woke up, we hadn't even gone to bed. It was about 8 o'clock on the night of about December the 17th. And there's a boom, boom, boom. And they send wave after wave. And we figure if, that navigator's off a tenth of a second, that bomb's going to land right in the middle of camp. They know, I'm sure, where we are. Yeah. And so in about the third night, they started shooting the B-52s down. And Dave Young, who's a good friend of mine, B-52 pilot, who flew Linebacker 2, remember, at Rivermont with me. And he told me that they had the same course. And the North Vietnamese, after about the third night, said, this is a course they're flying. So they set the SAMs up and they started shooting down. They shot about 15 of those B-52s down. Wow. But it probably did more damage than all the fast movers ever did those years they bombed the North.
You're up north at this point. Is it creeping in your head any hope of getting out? Or are you still just kind of reserved to...
Brian, when we get a radio broadcast, Mr. Home brings a portable radio into our jungle camp, okay? The only modern thing. And it's on radio, the Voice of Vietnam, their propaganda station. So we're listening to that. And so we find out Nixon's elected through that broadcast. Wow. And they kind of get excited because he's going to bring the end to the war. We start getting, instead of the red vermin-infested rice, we get like Uncle Ben's polished white rice. And we get a little higher ration. Well, after a while, they say, have no illusions, They realize it's not going anywhere. He's not going to, bend or give to the... Although in the end, I think we pretty much did. But so that, and we've learned about the moon landing through that broadcast. They said, they put a man on the moon, but they can't end the war in Vietnam. They won't leave us alone, So, well, and I'm going to tell you, I was sad. Voice of America, it should not be shut down. Mr. Home leaves. It's raining. He leaves a hut. We turn to Voice of America. You can't imagine. I mean, you almost cry. You're hearing the real truth, instead of their propaganda. You're here. Well, we're afraid he's going to come back and catch us. We're going to get punished pretty bad. So we don't keep it on very long. So that's my take on Voice of America. To get to these countries that people don't hear the truth, we always got to broadcast. Let me go back to an incident we had where we were starving. This is around November of 68. We hadn't been prisoners long, and we're starving. And Joe Zotaki, we're sitting out just when the sun goes down, we have to get on a bamboo bed and go to sleep. We got no lights, anything. They have kerosene lanterns that come through and do a head check on us. We have punji stakes that are around as a perimeter, like barbed wire around us. And we're weak. And so Joe sees a cat. They had just brought a cat from the lowlands because we were infested with rats and mice eating. And it sounds like Green Bay Packers running through the thatched roof at night. And one of them bit my toe one night. So they bring this cat up, and Joe said, boy, that'd make a good meal. Next thing, Russ had killed that cat. I blame him. He was, And we had skinned it down we had double-edged razor blades. We didn't have any growth because we didn't have any protein. We didn't have much to eat. But they did bring a razor blade once in a while for us to shave, and we hid, for medical purposes, Lance Boyles, Dr. Kushner uses an instrument. We got the entrails out of the cat. We cut it down. We cut. In fact, Kushner was supposed to throw the entrails away, and I went down to the latrine a few days later, and I look up and it's hanging up. He was said,
"Go through it."
So we had everything but the paws cut off of it, and we're there by the fire. Now we're always in bed, and the guard got suspicious. We had somebody posted of our group while we clean, and when we've got it cleaned down, I mean, we're salivating. We figured that's 3 pounds of meat on this cat. Mm-hmm. And Isaiah McMillan says, David, told her, he said, guys, I ain't superstition, but I'm not eating none of that cat. So he wasn't going to eat any of that cat. He's going to kill a chicken now and eat it, but not the cat. And so he said we could have his share. And we, in the choir, the moat yard guard gets past and he catches us. We've been caught. At first he thought, they've killed a wild animal. That's pretty ingenious. When they found out it was the camp's cat, and the camp commander came down, and they got the lanterns out there. It's like a Japanese war flick. And we're thinking, whoa-wee. So before they get down, some of the guys have fled, gotten back on the bed. I'm in the middle of it, and some of the other guys, and they know. And so we're standing out. But we decided, okay, we're going to tell them, all of us saw this animal running across through the compound. We grabbed rocks and we threw it at it. We killed it. And, we thought it was a wild animal. And we realized, we weren't going to come tell you or whatever. So, because we knew they like to single somebody out as a scapegoat to, and so that's the story we stood by. And so Garwood's out there, Mr. Holmes interpreting. We love the camp's cat very much. You've killed a cat. And we're thinking, really, you people would have eaten it too,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah. So we're there. And Russ, for some reason, took the blame. As soon as it came out of his mouth, Quah and Dang drop kicked him to the ground. And Russ, a pretty big guy, 6'3" probably, and and they beat him real bad, and then they beat the rest of us and tie us up during the night and keep us out. And took me and Strickland, and we had to bury the cat outside the compound. Well, it's figured they dug it up later and ate it themselves. But so that was the aborted food project.
Are you guys making names for the captors? Are they around you enough that you know personalities and who they are, and like you make up names? Or are you even picking up the language?
Yeah, just words. Yeah, we do. When we leave camp, we do not have an interpreter with us, which isn't a real good thought if you think about it. To go to these villages, and I'll tell you a tale about that. I had been sick with malaria, and I had boils on me, and I'm a worker. I'm decided the only way I'm going to live is I got to get up and move. I can't sit around. And so the whole time I'm thinking, I got to get back to work. And I was sick. I was a sick puppy, and sicker than I thought. I got to the point. I said, okay, I'm going on one of these. We called them runs. So I put my name in the hat. We had to say who was going the next day. We told them the night before, and then we had a guard per person. And Willie Watkins went that day. I went, and Robert Lewis, and maybe Jim Strickland. So as we were walking out of camp, we're not 100 meters out of camp, and I am faint. And I said, whoa. And I told the guard, they said, oh, no. We started this journey, you going. I said, no, I can't make it, I'm trying to tell it. So off we go. And so I'm telling them, I said, guys, I just can't, make it. They said, what we'll do when we get to the field, you just sit down. You just go. You just try to make it. And so when we got to the field, I sat down, and the guards wouldn't have any of that. No. You go. Well, you can stack a basket full, or you can stack it. And so I started just putting a few in there, and they were. So when we leave, Willie Watkins has a 10-foot stride, Willie's a tall, lanky guy out of Sumter, South Carolina. He says, "Okay, David, you're going to be the lead man. Okay, set your pace." Again, they said, no, no, no. So that left Sweetie Pants with me, Lom. And so I'm with Lom. The others have gone on up the trail, and I can barely make it up this hillside. I just can't get much breath. I'm weak. And so I fake a fainting spell. Well, he ain't buying that. He locks and loads and puts a bayonet up on his old Mauser rifle. And I'm thinking, he's going to shoot me here and go back and say I tried to escape. I don't know. I got deep within. But I was able finally to get to this last village just before our camp, maybe, I don't know, half a mile from our camp. And here comes Willie Watkins out of the village. And they like Willie. He hadn't got anything. He ain't got a guard with him. He ain't got his basket. He grabs me. I mean, I almost hugged the guy. I mean, he grabs my basket and me, and off we go. And I managed to get back, and I've recovered from that, got better.
Wow.
But anyway, so yeah, it was good to know, we didn't know the language that well, just a few words to get by.
All right. So how does it end? How do you end the POW?
The peace agreement, the Paris Peace Accords, was signed in January 1973, and it provided for the release of prisoners, theirs and ours.
Were you aware that this was
We knew it was
coming?
And yeah, the bombing had stopped. It was silent, so we figured they'd gone back to the table. And Jose Anzaldúa was captured. He had gone to language school. He was a Marine. When he was captured, he had a Kit Carson scout with him, a Vietnamese, come from their side, come over to our side. They executed him right there in front of Jose. But anyway, Jose spoke Vietnamese, and he heard through the camp radio in Vietnamese. He said, "Hey guys, the war is over." We had been moved from Plantation over to Wallow Jail, Hanoi Hilton. So we were there from like the end of December till March when we got released. So that was my experience with Hanoi Hilton, just kind of a holding till we got on the airplanes to leave. Let me back up in Laos. There weren't any prisoners that came out of
hanging
Laos.
on every word.
That's incredible.
When we were walking the trail, they had way stations, as we called them. So every encampment they had was about 20 miles, spaced about 20 miles apart. You'd walk about 20 miles a day. And when you got to there, they had commo wire laid out. They were communicating with Hanoi through telegraph or whatever, or radio. And they had these big vats, and mainly just vats for cooking, and then they had it set up for sleeping. They had holes dug in the ground about 20 feet by 15 feet with long bamboo poles along the top of them, so the soldiers could put their hammocks underground and sleep underground pretty much. And he's pretty ingenious, good. They figured all that out. We were above ground, but I did have a hammock, which got almost better sleeping in a bamboo bed. So once we got over the Trunk Sun Mountain Range, we had our own food cooked, but we got these way stations, they were cooking for us. We would go draw rice out of these big vats, almost like an entrenching tool. They were shoveling the food out, cooking up, just in vast quantities. So we got hot rice, and we'd go back and eat it at the location where we were staying that night, right there in that encampment. And the next morning we get hot rice, and then they give us a bowl of bamboo, banana leaf, rice wrapped in a banana leaf for the trail during the day. At noontime when we stopped, we'd eat that cold rice. So I'm drawing rations at night, and Mr. Luck, Lieutenant Luck, had fought in the Plain of Jars. He was our guy. He was an infantry guy, and he really had some empathy for us. You could tell. He got us more rice, and he kind of, you just got that feeling. Anyway, he was with me, and I'm looking where the rice is coming, and I hear behind me, somebody putting a round in a chamber, and I'll turn around, and there's a Laotian peasant sitting there, and Luck grabs his rifle, and through an interpreter, he says, when we get to the pilots that are shot down, we kill them. We don't, So, he wanted to kill me, and they said, no, you're not killing this American. He's us. And so that was just my take. That's probably what they did. If the Vietnamese didn't get to them before the Laotians, the villagers would, kill the pilots.
I mean, honestly, you're in probably the poorest area of poorest areas. Any food that you're consuming is food that they're not consuming. I mean, you're taking from them, so killing you is easier than feeding you.
Yeah, Trent, that's interesting. When I got there and we're in going to these poor villages, they ain't got a pot to piss in, and they're working hard. They don't have any men of, all the men of military age are gone, So it's the old women, the young women, and the little kids that are working these rice paddies. And it's like, oh my, they can't spell the word democracy, but I understand some of it. But I said, I've read about this in Time Magazine or National Geographic, but when you're there, it's just to see it, and then to get up in the mountains and see those people. Wow. Yeah, I say a prayer for them, that their life's improved over time.
That's amazing of you.
Yeah.
Wow.
When the day comes when you're finally free, and I guess you're catching a plane coming back to America.
Yeah.
Or are you going to a hospital first? What?
Yeah. Well, my group was about the second or third. They did us in groups, and I think I was the first from the South to come out. Pilots had been released, and then some. So we have a date set, and they come and get us out of the cell with the other Americans, take us to a holding cell, give us Western type windbreakers and pants and shirt, and a little duffel bag like we've been on vacation, And so we sit there, noontime rolls around, they bring food in. We said, why are you bringing food? We've been released today. They said the peace agreement fell through.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, God.
And that backs up to what I was going to tell you. With Nixon, maybe this roller coaster, maybe we're going to go home. Brian, I had a thought at one point. If I'm 55 years old when I get released and I'm in good health, I'll have a good few years left. That was kind of my thought. I mean, and every day becomes like a million years. Here you are in the border. In the jungle, I like the outdoors, and I didn't like malaria, but we did get mosquito nets and that. But anyway, so living had become kind of commonplace, and the possibility of escape was better there, But when I got north, the boredom of a cell and, the same old stories, and we're not traveling and walking, getting exercise. We're at the courtyard maybe an hour a day. But, yeah. So they come a few days later, and they open up the big old iron gates of that old French prison. Yeah. And there it looks like a whole Hanoi population stand outside the gate, and they got these vehicles waiting for us, and we get in them, and they just want to see the Americans. And as we're riding along, I told you B-52, you could see it tore the railroad up, and all the infrastructure. It did a lot of damage, and so we come down to Xylem Airport, and the old Quonset hangars are there, and I see them, and we sit there while we wait, and then all of a sudden we start moving, and as we come around, there's a C-141 Starlifter, the Air Force plane, with the American flag on the back of it. Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm happy the war's over, and we're maybe going to get home, but our names read as a one-star general, American general there, and they're sitting beside and read our name, and I go up and salute the general, hey. And then I get an escort to Air Force. I think one of them was a lady, walk us back up the ramp of that and put us on a plane, and we take off. And a little while later, the pilot comes on. He said, we're out of North Vietnam airspace. Oh. We're in international airspace. And you talk about crying and screaming, and the cheer went up. And then we landed in the Philippines. We know the anti-war movement's big, but we didn't know what to expect. we land, and the dependent family is just lying at tarmac there. And so the ranking man on that plane gets to make a statement. President Marcos is there, the ambassador to the Philippines is there, all the dignitaries. And as we get off the plane, we shake all their hands. But the ranking man makes a statement. And we're held in the Philippines for about 2 days, some preliminary medical, just to make sure we're okay. And then we fly back to the U.S. And that was a great flight. And we land in Honolulu at the air base there, Hickam, in the middle of the night. And again, people lining the fence, the cyclone fence. And they've got American flags, they've got leis, and it's about chest high. We're going over and they're putting leis around our necks. And they're giving us American flags. And and one lady says, "I'm from Hogtown."
No kidding.
Yeah. I said, "You're from Madison."
Across the river. What?
Yeah. I said, "I am home." Well, when I was in the Philippines, Steve Walthall, who lived briefly up in a rental house up the road from where I was raised, was in the Navy, and he had a good position. He got over to see me. So he was a hometown guy that I knew, and he was one of the first Americans. And I had, we had a escort who was the same rank. I was E6 by then, staff sergeant. He kind of came from the same background as me. And the first thing he said, "Everybody in your family's alive." Well, that's the first time I'm thinking about. Yeah. Well, I guess I've thought about it some. That's a relief, out of 7 children, and so he lets me put in a call to my mother, to my home, and my mother's the first one I talked to, and I tell people she sounded like a hillbilly from out of West Virginia. I hadn't heard her voice. My dear mother, out of Killian, South Carolina, off of 2 Notch Road. She grew up on a sand farm. Yeah, I had the best mother in the world. But anyway, they went through a lot. That's something, that you get lost in, the families back home, the suffering that they went through, and they didn't know where they
How were they informed? Did they know you're missing? They know they're not hearing from you, and they know there was an ambush, that type of thing. Do they wonder if you're still dead in the jungle, or how do they know you're actually a prisoner?
The first camp I get to, in Triple Canopy, we moved that camp several days later. Augusto and the chiefs of Puerto Ricans, they released them as a show of solidarity. Puerto Ricans were subject to the draft, whether territory of the U.S. One of them was Marine and one of them was Army, and they brought our names out. So that's the first about 8 weeks after I'm captured, word gets back through the casualty assistance officer to my parents, and David's name's on this list. And then Willie Watkins, Jim Strickland, and Coy Tinsley were released in the fall of 1969, and they brought word out to my family. Alive. But from then until I got released, they didn't know. And so when the list comes out, the casualty assistance officer for my parents, Major Plummer, lived in Norfolk. And so he calls up and says, "I've got the list." I said, "Well, is David's name on it?" He said, "I can't tell you over the phone, military. I have to come there in person and let you know." And he got that like in the middle of the night, knocked on the door. He'd had the flu that day, but he got up and his wife drove him down there, and he said, "David's alive. He's a man you saw. There's a different color in my family."
Oh, yeah.
That was Major Plummer, great guy. Anyway, so my brother Danny, next to the youngest, went up and down Taylor Road knocking on doors at about 2 a.m. and David's home, coming home. David's coming home, yeah.
Wow.
So they were excited.
Before we went on air, you showed us what you wore over there. So is that stuff you just brought with you when you were released?
I did. I brought that out. I don't know why. Why would you bring that? I don't know.
Yeah, but that's...
you don't want a souvenir. But the sandals, were just... Yeah. Up till I got those, they'd taken my boots, so I was walking barefoot. And when you're walking up stony creek beds, your feet, I'm a tenderfoot. But they finally brought those and the mosquito nets in September, and they were lifesavers. Yeah, just the little things in life.
How hard was it once you got back to kind of get, I guess, back in the
it's been 6 years. You were gone. I mean, it's 6 years since you left. So what did it feel like? Wow, that changed. What was what was your recollection of being back?
I just fell back into it. I just assimilated. It just was natural.
Right back? Oh, no kidding.
And see, I was not married, with a wife and children. So, and my parents, I just right away. When I came to the airport, there were about 10,000 people at Preston Glen Airport, Lynchburg Regional Airport, where I had left to fly out to California from. Well, up to D.C. and then out. And so Cardinal Airlines provides an airplane to fly me back. Well, there's a little catch to it because they got the SET, I guess WLVA then, guy on there to interview me on a flight back from Reading, Pennsylvania, back to Lynchburg Airport. He said, "What do you think about all these people?" I'm like, "What's he talking about? All these people?" And when we flew over the airport, I had always envisioned in my mother's foyer hallway and my family there, a little small house. I said, my family's grown quite a bit. That was good to see everybody. Classmates from Brookville High School, when word got out that my name was on the list to be released, they were having a little get-together. They said, we ought to do something. Chris Ann Overfelt Moore married Buddy Moore, star football quarterback at Brookville. She was one of the ones that headed it up. So they got a group together, and you saw the bumper sticker. They printed the bumper stickers that said, "Welcome home, David," for $1 a piece. And so after the preliminary Brookville band was there, played, my preacher was there, Carl Collins, had a prayer, and then the sea parted, and there was a Corvette, and they took me up to it. And I said, "Well, how do you get into it, It wasn't a push button or whatever. It's that lever you push down. So they showed me how.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've got the Corvette, and I had it restored, and I've enjoyed it. Yeah, God's
You
been
still
good
have the
to me.
Corvette?
I
You still have it?
Corvette. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my
I have to drive it over here sometimes.
Holy cow, yeah. That's amazing. You said you cruised the country, right? Is that one of the
I did,
first things you did?
Yeah,
in the Corvette?
I did. I went back to Valley Forge, came home on leave, and then went back and got discharged from there. Most of my fellow PWs stayed in and made top enlisted rank and made a career of it. I went back to Virginia Tech and got my degree.
Yeah.
And got into probation and parole work.
Yeah.
But anyway, I drove cross country. My youngest brother, Lewis, went with me, and we stopped in Refugio, Texas, saw Jose Anzaldúa, went fishing out in the Gulf, and and followed him out to California to his Marine base out there. Went up and saw cousins up in the San Leandros, and we just day to day. Yeah,
your perspective will be greater than anybody else's.
Yeah, somebody said drive the Pacific Coast Highway, so we went the Pacific Coast Highway, camped out at Big Sur National Park. It's a beautiful. If anybody has not driven the Pacific Coast Highway and gets a chance, they should. Oh yeah,
100%.
You got. Well, I camp. They have a tent set up, so I didn't have a tent. We just got a handbag.
Well,
I guess you
could rough it. You could probably rough it
better than anybody.
Got any bamboo beds?
Well, a police officer that was on vacation next to us, LA police officer, said, "Did you stop at San Simeon?" I said, he said, "The Hearst Mansion." I said, "Well, I didn't know about it. I just stopped, so I missed that."
I did that tour. Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Once,
okay.
Yeah, I did the coast.
And the Grand Canyon, went to the Hoover Dam. Yeah.
Oh, the Hoover Dam's amazing.
Yeah. You just did that.
Yeah.
That's on my bucket list. You did all that in your
We did
trip?
camp out at Lake Mead that night.
Oh.
It was 200 degrees there. I mean, you couldn't get your breath.
Wasn't that hot in Vietnam?
Big Sur. Oh, yeah. It was back in Vietnam.
Wow.
So that is a question. What was the weather like in Vietnam?
We got bone-chilling cold during their winter months, right? Yeah, it got cold, and we had a little piece of cloth. You couldn't call it a blanket, maybe a sheet. It was about 2 feet wide and maybe 6 feet long, and that kept the mosquitoes off of us till we got the mosquito nets. And when it got cold, we couldn't light a fire. We would prefer to have a fire going, get by a fire, and keep warm, and because any light would attract spotter planes, and we get bombed. In fact, that's the starvation, the disease, infectious diseases, and all that took lives, and was our enemy. The Americans were our enemy too, because we got arc lighting. We got about a click away, which is about a half a mile, and you can hear the bomb bay doors opening, and you can hear the bombs whistling, and you hope the next one, does not hit you. Oh, boom, 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 boom. Yeah, we had arc lighting near the end of our stay there.
Yeah,
maybe that was one of the reasons.
I never knew it was cold. I never knew it would be. I've always seen the movies are hot in the jungle and it's sweaty and all that. I didn't.
No snow or anything, but just it was cold. Yeah. And the poor diet we had up north when it got cool, we did have a kind of like a wool blanket there we could cover up with, and we fared better. Food was better up north. And we got a pumpkin soup one time, cabbage soup the other, and they didn't feed us rice. They gave us a loaf of French bread, a half a loaf. And some mornings they would have a little sugar with it we could dip in as a treat. And People's Republic of China supplied little canned Spam or whatever. It wasn't American grade, but anyway, hey, it was protein.
Chinese grade Spam.
So let's see. Just one. I'm trying to think of I just can't picture all that's going on. Like when you come back, how do you the switch just goes off and you become just a regular citizen and you don't.
I do.
Wow.
I go back and sleep at my parents' home till I go off to Virginia Tech. I buy a townhouse up in Virginia Tech, and I'm a guy owning a 4-bedroom townhouse, there in Oak Manor. Yeah.
What an incredible story.
And going to class. Yeah. You move on.
How were your grades your second time around at Virginia Tech?
A little better. Yeah. I thought they were going to be straight A's, but I never was a real scholar. I was good in English, I guess, right? Yeah, I wrote a pretty good pre-sentence report for the judges, when I was a probation officer. It was social background. But, I got wore out first on because I felt like, I've got to tell the story, people, a first-hand account. And churches would invite me, and I just, but over time, when I came back after I got my degree and bought a house and lived here and got married, high schools would have me come, history teachers, and I did a lot of that, in church groups and, early on, civic groups still have me come and talk. I do it at a Rotary Club out in Amherst sometime in November, but not like it used to be, steady, but still.
Wow. Well, it's an incredible story, and thank you so much for coming in today and sharing it with us.
Last question.
Yeah, we always end the show with a last question. This one ought to be interesting. So, if you could spend 24 hours with one person in history, and you could pick anybody, present day or past, who would it be, and where would you hang out with them?
I don't know. I guess George Washington. How did you do it? Or Thomas Jefferson of Virginia. Well, they're both Virginians, yeah. Mm-hmm. One of them, Thomas Jefferson, who wrote that, Declaration and was involved in all that, the founding of this country. But George Washington, moving the troops without, those two men, just men of stature, men of integrity, men of character. Just,
If I recall correctly, Gary Witt, that was his same answer. Now, he's a Purple Heart recipient, so he really wanted to know where that would have come from and that idea, and just talk to him about that. And it's interesting you would say that, because Gary, when he mentioned why he went in the military, in our interview with him, he said you were captured, and he thought somehow, some way, he could be a hero.
Yeah.
He wanted to come find you.
Yeah, Gary's an old Brookfield boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see.
That's just amazing.
He's involved.
You guys are some amazing men.
Their country is in debt to. I mean, just the stories and the grit that you had to survive all of that. It's amazing.
Think about it, Brian. You leave a good, comfortable home and go fight so somebody else can.
Yeah.
I mean, and you'll die. That's that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, Medal of Honor recipients. You talk about a group I admire.
Mm-hmm.
And they have no ego.
No.
None of them. I mean, I've met some, and I know they just, they went above and beyond, the grit that a lot of people don't have. But that's what I think about. The citizen army, that went to World War II and won, freed Europe.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm just another person that served in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have a story to tell, but a lot of guys, have stories to tell. There are just a lot of them out there. But that was the generation I came up in. We love country. Ask not what, the country can do for you, but what you can do for your country,
Mm-hmm.
Kennedy was right, in that Peace Corps. I've met people who've been in a Peace Corps. What a great statement that people will do that, go help other people. I get the Virginia Tech magazine, and I hadn't seen it lately, but back some years ago, I mean, these stories of these people that graduated agriculture or whatever, and they're going, and just that servanthood, that sacrifice, because people, and that's to me defines America. It's not our strengths in that nuclear weapon, it's in the hearts and the minds of people, Americans, and we're a good people. Yeah. We're a good people. We care about each other. We care about this Constitution. We care about freedom and democracy and free speech. We, those are just ideals that we still carry forward. I had the opportunity, POW organization awards scholarships in my granddaughter, Emily Grace Emanuel, going to Women Married, I've told you guys. And at the Brookfield award ceremony, I presented her with that scholarship, and they wrote out, and just when I read it, I cried. I didn't write it out, this period. And it says, she stands for those. I said, she does,
Yeah.
Amen. And so I got to speak to the Brookfield family and, along with other people that got scholarships. But you can tell I love this country and its people. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you again for coming in today. We are it's an incredible story. I've gotten texts constantly.
Honored and humbled.
Yeah. Thank you again. Again, you're listening to Life, Liberty, Happiness, and we were interviewing U.S. Army and Vietnam veteran David Harker.